Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to Paws On Animation in our new segment, Paws On Manga.
This is where we cover some of our favorite manga series and recommend them to you all, showing just how much we love them. And this time we're covering the manga Promised Neverland.
By request of Sylvian14.
Yes.
Now this manga is about three orphans who discover a dark secret behind their orphanage and work together to escape. And we've already covered the first season of the show. The second season was so atrocious that we needed to cover the actual rest of the story through the books. And we will be coming up with a podcast on season 2 soon as well.
Yeah. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click case buddies on future podcasts and we'll pause videos.
So, if you haven't read The Promised Neverland, you really should read it. It is actually, until the end, an outstanding manga. Different from anything that we've read, different from anything that's been out there. And that's why when the series originally aired, season 1, it was an absolute hit.
Right.
And part of the allure was that you couldn't tell people what it was about. You would tell them, like Rascal told me, watch this. I can't tell you about it. Just watch it.
Right.
And then after watching the first episode, you're hooked. And it was the same way reading the book. The book is just as engaging. You get engrossed in the story. It's just as exciting. It's just as fantastical. Until the end. Up until the end, it is a great manga.
Yeah.
And we absolutely recommend that you read it.
Right. And this manga, when it gets past season 1 story, is incredibly different, totally different from what season 2 had. Season 2 just cuts out 98% of the story and just jumps to the end by 13 episodes. But here, you can read what really happened, the canonical story that happened, and not feel like it's rushed or anything.
And I think there are 18 volumes.
Yes, 18 volumes for the entire story. There is no spinoff. There is no sequel manga. There is no chibi story or anything. It's just
how it ended. There's a reason for that, and it's probably a good thing that there isn't.
Right.
Because unfortunately, the ending, as we mentioned, is kind of
sucks.
Yeah, in both the anime and the manga.
It's just, and the only problem is you can't tell whose is worse, the animes or the mangas at this point. And
anime.
For
me, the anime. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, it starts off fantastically. And season 1 is almost 1-to-1 for the manga.
Yeah.
And the animation style matches the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
They cast it fantastically for the voice actors in the anime, based on the characters' personalities in the manga.
Yes.
For the English dub, we should say.
Right.
And you feel like, hey, this is really something special. This is different. This is shocking. But it's not so shocking that you want to put it down and not read it. It's such an engaging story that you just have to stick with it. And you just want to keep getting every volume. Actually, I would recommend, if it's possible for you to get all the volumes up until number 15, 1 through 15, so that you can read them without stopping, do that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And as you said, it's still really engaging to read. There's a lot of new characters you get introduced to after season 1 that are just non-existent season 2, just about the entire cast.
20 volumes. I don't know how we thought 18. I think 18, forgive me, because it took us a while to get the last 2.
Right.
So there's actually 20 volumes. We had to wait for the last 2 to come out, and I think that's why we kept thinking 18.
Right.
But it's 20 volumes, I'm sorry.
Right. And you get to see a whole new cast of characters as it goes on. They don't add too many in there, but you do get to see a wide variety of kids in here, and maybe teenagers. You get to find out how this part of the world came to be and why the storyline is happening, how that world works, and how they want to change it for the better and change the world so others could be free. You do find out how that all works, how it started, how it ends. Everything is open and closed by the end. It's just when you have the anime, it doesn't technically end, they just make it end. Everything that you were looking for in here is done through slideshow, and then the show is over. They completely skip the entire story and change how the creatures are in here to where they're empathetic and they're not evil. But in here you actually get an explanation of how they are, why they're like this. Some can choose to be different. Some just like what they're doing. You get every layer and facet within the story.
And for the anime, they don't have the excuse that the manga wasn't finished. The manga was finished, and they still chose to screw up the anime ending. So this manga, which is considered dark fantasy, science fiction, and thriller, written by Kayu Shirai, illustrated by Kosuke Demazu, published by Shueisha, and in the U.S. by Viz Media. As we mentioned, it's 20 volumes, and it ran from 2016 to 2020. Again, the manga was finished by the time the anime was made, so we're just not sure what these people were thinking when they decided to go off the rails for the anime.
Yeah.
So again, through volumes 1 through 15 of the manga, excellent. Absolutely excellent, will keep you engaged. There, in this particular genre, you almost won't find a better read.
Right.
You have twists and turns. You have people who you thought were villains that aren't, and people who you thought were heroes that aren't. You get to see some of the characters actually grow older.
Yes.
Through the course of this manga, you find out some characters, you know what happened to them. On the show, they disappear and you don't know what happened, but within the manga you find out the fates of many characters, some good, not so good. So again, I keep saying 1 through 15 because 1 through 15 is the best portion of this manga. You just want to read it and never stop. Then you get to volume 16 through 20 and it goes downhill and it turns into a train wreck. And you can see that it's starting to happen with number 16. And you're kind of confused by the way things are starting to go. And you're wondering why. And the thing that's kind of disturbing for me was some of those stupid turns they took in the anime actually did happen in the manga.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. And that's when you're like, what? Why did you do that? Why did you go there? This was such a good story. This was going a great way. Who thought this would make sense? Including what happens to Mother and to Ratri.
Right.
And to some other characters. The way they ended the anime, a couple of them kind of started on the same path and then deviated.
Yeah.
It just went stupid.
Yeah.
And then some of them didn't match the manga at all.
Right.
Kind of the way the anime ends is, I'm gonna agree with you. The manga is worse because the way the anime ends, you got an ending. In the manga, the way that it ends is so disappointing. So if you haven't read the manga and you want to, this is where you might want to check out here.
Right, for spoiler's sake.
Because the way that it ends is so disappointing. It is so disappointing. I know I keep saying it. It's just, why? I feel like Charlie Brown. Why? The characters deserve better.
Yeah. They did. Now, we can say that
Especially Emma.
Yeah. We can say mostly that the Gracefield children do not die. They all technically do make it to the end. So, on one hand, great. We were afraid they were going to get eaten or something. They didn't. But Emma paid a price for everyone to get out. Now, again, didn't get eaten. But it was something that might as well be just as bad because it almost feels like a retcon in a way. The events still happen, but for Emma, it's like you're starting over again.
And it's like she was punished for doing the right thing. She was punished for having hope. She was punished for remaining positive. She was punished for wanting all of her brothers and sisters to come out of this alive and to have a better life. It was almost like she was punished for being this positive character. That's what it felt like to me.
Right.
And they had the audacity to put Santa Claus at the end.
Why? I don't know.
And yeah, he was Santa Claus. They didn't say it, but it's clear this character was Santa Claus in the end that she ends up meeting. It could have been so much better. It was almost like the author copped out. Or maybe he just couldn't come up with something he thought would be tantamount to what the anime and manga were. Well, let's put it this way: tantamount to what the manga had been, 1 through 15. Maybe he couldn't think of anything. Maybe this was the best he could come up with. And I don't want to insult him as an author, because as a mangaka, and an author, because it's got to be a difficult work. But the way that it ended is just really bad. And maybe one day the mangaka can write a different ending and satisfy the show.
Right, like
and
an
write
epilogue.
something different. Right, because the way that this ended was just so disappointing. And just, again, if you haven't read it, time to leave.
Yeah.
Emma's entire memories are wiped clean.
She doesn't remember who she is. Grace feels nothing. She's a blank slate.
None of her brothers and sisters, she remembers nothing.
And she waits for something to return. She says, I feel like she's forgotten something. So she stays with Santa Claus, and they sort of work together to survive. So, well, okay, well, she'll just stay there until memory comes back. It technically never does. They find her. She still doesn't remember her. She doesn't remember any of them. The way they imply when she cries when she sees them is like her mind or her brain doesn't remember, but her heart does. And she says she's happy to see them, but she doesn't understand why. But she feels like she's meant to be with them, and they all live together again. So it's just like, okay, we'll just create new memories with her since she won't remember the other ones. But like part of her knows she's supposed to be with them, but she doesn't remember and never will. That doesn't really satisfy the ending. I know they were trying to have something be the ultimate price without killing someone off. And I understand that's difficult to do because they already killed off 2 big characters. I can understand that being a struggle, but there could have been something. If you're going to even have that, then have a way for the memories to return where it loopholes it, and then that probably would have made it a lot less disappointing. It would have been like you wanted more, but hey, you had a happy ending for everybody. And the world is still in one piece, and now that's a good thing, but you wanted that one key part in there kind of made everything else fall apart.
Well, the good things about this manga, again, 1 through 15, it's a great read, well written, fantastic art, and one thing that really went well with critics is that the main character is a female, but the audience target was male. So that was pretty interesting. And she's strong. Again, she doesn't lose her humanity. She's intelligent. She's caring. She learns to be tough. She already had a tough core, but she learns to physically learn to defend herself, how to use weapons and things. She didn't lose her humanity. Again, no matter what happened, she wanted everyone to make it out alive and everyone to be free. And for a character, whether it's Western or a character that is anime based, for that to be maintained throughout is just something that personally I haven't seen or read in any other anime.
Right.
No matter what happens, she maintained that core of this is going to turn out great. Yes, she had challenges. Yes, there were times she cried. Yes, there were times she wasn't sure what was going to happen, but she would pick herself back up and she would go and gather her strength and be an inspiration for all the children around her, even ones that were older. Like when she met
they call him Geezer.
Yes, thank you. When she met Geezer, she ended up being an inspiration for him and giving him the impetus to want to stay alive and to live and not have the existence he was having being alone. So she's a very positive character, very strong character, and one of the most memorable female characters I would say I've seen in a manga or a comic, Western or whatever, and her being a teenager, well, before she was a teen, preteen and a teen, and doing that is pretty much just unheard of.
Right. And that's probably why we really enjoyed this manga up until the last few volumes. And you do recommend reading a huge, big portion of them because it is really engaging. It is incredible to see characters like this exist, and it's really nearly the superior version from the anime and from the live action and from the upcoming American one. This is really the version to own or to read, and just up until those last few volumes, it is worthy of being one of the best mangas written in the last few years.
So I think I would probably say, thinking about the number of volumes, 1 through 18 is good, 19 and 20 leave off.
Right.
So quickly want to share with you guys this review by Rafael Montemayor of Polygon. And I think the critic sums it up pretty well in what happened with the story and with the manga, especially saying season 2. It still captures the intention of the source material in a satisfying way. The Promised Neverland anime was not planning on telling its own story, but rather skipping the chapters of the manga to be done with the story as soon as humanly possible, still telling enough story that somewhat resembles the manga's plotline, but taking away whatever made it impactful in the first place, adding that it was similar to the final season of Game of Thrones. And I think that pretty much sums up what happened. What gave it such an impact to people around the world was taken away not only in the manga, but also in the anime.
Right.
And it's like, why did you get us invested and loving this just to disappoint us at the end?
Right.
And unfortunately, that is the legacy for the Promised Neverland. You had something that started out that got lots of awards, lots of attention, and definitely was going to be a work that went down in anime history.
Yeah.
And manga history.
Yeah, the anime
it's
definitely
one of the
for
greatest
sure.
mangas and animes ever. And they totally ruined their own legacy. So now it's become a footnote. And no one even talks about or mentions Promised Neverland anymore. And when they do, it's always season 1, not season 2. Or the manga, don't read the end. And that's really unfortunate that the mangaka chose to go this route.
Yeah.
It really is. I don't know if Shirai will even be given anything else to write as a result of what's happened. But if the mangaka does write something else, I hope they choose to give us a better ending and make it worth our while.
Right. My last comment is the one theory people had was at the time near the story was getting to the end, the pandemic started and it was spreading to Japan. And people thought maybe they wanted to chop off some of these mangas, and because either there wasn't enough work done or they didn't want them at the place long periods, they had them rush the story and try to end it as quick as they could, just so they didn't have to be at work, which would be a pretty lame way to excuse yourself from writing. You could just put it on hiatus until it was safe to go back to work.
Just put it on hold and wait. That's what Millionaire Detective and other people did. Just put it on hold. And then come back and give us what we were expecting.
Right.
So if you've read the Promised Neverland manga, still beyond, and others, let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with what we think? Do you think it was great from volumes 1 through 18 and then 19 and 20 just dropped off the grid? Did you like season 2 of the Promised Neverland? Let us know in the comments below. If you haven't read it, again, we do recommend it, but after volume 18, I just would not read it to find out the ending because you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But if you're really curious, go ahead and finish it. But definitely volumes 1 through 18 are fantastic and a must read. Unfortunately, if you do read it to the end, we have to be honest, you're going to be unfulfilled with how it ends.
Yeah.
So if you want to just read it to be entertained up until that point, we definitely recommend it. Up until that point, it is an amazing story.
Right. If y'all not already, subscribe for updates and videos of your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for your support and for joining us on these manga reviews. We're really loving it. If you have a manga that you want us to check out, let us know in the comments below. And if we aren't subscribed to you yet or know you, let us know who you are. Leave your channel name, better yet, a link. We'll check it out, and we'll support you as well.
Right. So, thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? sky in my pocket.